Hey everyone, welcome to the Discover Virginia podcast. I'm Joseph Trahan, your host for the #1 video podcast in Virginia, where we explore the rich history, vibrant culture, and iconic businesses that make our Commonwealth truly special and worth talking about. So get ready as together we discover Virginia. Navigating today's investment landscape requires more than just financial knowledge. It demands strategic insight, advocacy, and the ability to adapt to ever-changing global economies, especially during an election year. Our guest today, Abella, brings a wealth of experience in portfolio management and investment strategy, with a disciplined approach that balances global economic trends, liquidity, credit availability, and tax efficiency. Jay is dedicated to achieving outstanding long-term results and total return for his investors. And he's also brave enough to talk about it on the podcast. Jay, welcome to the show.
Joe, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Before we go into the market and also portfolio management, I'd like to talk about our mutual favorite appreciation for the Eastern Shore. What exactly brought you to the Virginia area, and what exactly interested you to build your life and business on the shore here?
I will go backwards before I go forwards, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
So if there were a geographic location that was my personality, it would be the Eastern Shore. And I'm as lucky as anybody could be to have landed there. I raised my kids in Williamsburg, Virginia, which is up on the peninsula here, and was there for about 20 some odd years. Moved around a little bit between up north and Virginia for a little while, a few years, and then settled in the Eastern Shore. First I was in Cape Charles. Now I live on the water in Quinby, which is about halfway up the shore.
Very cool. Very cool, especially too considering just how unique the Eastern Shore is. I mean, if you live in Virginia and you haven't been there, you've probably been there by accident and just didn't know about it. But it is this little piece of paradise from the coast on one side to the ocean on the other. Jay, when it comes to appreciating the Eastern Shore, I have to ask, what is your go-to for the sunset? Or is it the sunrise?
Well, I love the sunsets and the sunrise because I'm an early riser myself, but the sunsets go over the Machapongo River next to my house, so that's lovely. I was also very fortunate to have seen them over the Chesapeake Bay on many, many occasions, having lived down there. And that is one of the hallmarks of the Eastern Shore, is being able to be inspired by the beauty and the creation, which is a part of everyday life there. And so it is the most wonderful thing that one could avail themselves to. It's very inspirational and allows me to be as effective as I think I can be given that setting, because I'm inspired by my surroundings and the people also as well.
Absolutely. And Jay, I understand in addition to your role at Investment Partners, you also serve the local community as well with the Chamber of Commerce, helping other businesses navigate the landscape of doing work and business in and around the community, correct?
In some of the most humble developments of my professional life, I've been elected to the board of directors of the Eastern Shore of Virginia Chamber of Commerce, as well as the board of directors of Cape Charles Main Street. Main Street, if you don't know, is a organization that tries to help smaller towns foster their business communities and market themselves throughout not just their local areas or extra local areas, but nationwide as well. And so being part of both of those organizations particularly has been ultimately gratifying. I think people need a conduit by which to do good, just for its own sake, because decency, in my opinion, is its own reward. And so having those types of outlets in my life allows for clear thinking and rounding out a chaotic and sometimes psychologically unfriendly climate of Wall Street. So having that balance in being able to put myself out there and really enjoy the people, the process, the events, the things that take place, and really make the shore a very unique endeavor has been a tremendous balance. And I gotta thank everybody that's been involved with that for providing a conduit for me to really, be myself and provide something that I really enjoy doing with passion.
Yeah, absolutely, Jay. And I think that's probably one of the first places we actually connected in person, or I guess over the phone, was via this chamber, and also just the unique aspect of Cape Charles and the Main Street, commerce, bringing people together, and serving in that way. So thank you for that.
Well, okay, so that's the part about the Eastern Shore that you learn very quickly. I would imagine any small town, but since I've never really lived in any other small town particularly,
Yeah.
the Eastern Shore is like a 75-mile small town. So what happens out there is that you understand very quickly, in order to prosper, you need to develop relationships all up and down the shore, everywhere from Chincoteague to Cape Charles and every place in between. The reason for that is because you never know who's going to need something from whom, and if they don't know them, having people, and there are a few, if not, maybe not a few, several people out there that are very good at doing just that. These types of folks that I'm trying to learn from kind of are the glue and the fabric that holds the shore together and allows for facilitation of getting needs or wants met.
Sure.
Similar to what you're talking about, right? Someone that you knew and that I knew, a common interest, was able to introduce us, and now here we are.
Right.
Okay, so that exchange is really the definition of commerce, but if it's taken to another level, which we try to inculcate in our investment business, is that it's a relationship orientation first and foremost. And everything else that flows from that, whether it's business or not, is very secondary. It's a very, very distant second to forming a relationship, being able to look into somebody else, into the eyes and bare yourself and say, okay, this is what I need.
Yeah.
This is where I'm vulnerable. This is what I could really use. Do you know of anybody that can help me?
Right.
Answer, sure. Call this person. Call that person. I'll set you up with so-and-so. Let me make a phone call. Or I'll see them tomorrow and I'll bring this up, and have all of these things be top of mind as part of your lifestyle. And it's a truly profound thing once you start experiencing it. And there are people out on the shore who do this so well. It's magnificent to watch, and you can only be amazed at the grace with which they do it, and you want to be just like them. So I've had a lot of very good role models in both of those organizations that I was speaking out before, that I think allows me to be a much more effective communicator in the investment management business, to where it's not all just numbers, dollars, cents, but it's people. It's the person behind the ones and zeros on the screen.
Yeah.
Because now you incorporate their goals, ambitions, objectives into your own. And therefore you make it more personal in that regard. Therefore, it makes it a lot easier to treat somebody else the way you'd want to be treated. And so if you can do that, then, I think that I'm just speaking for myself. I'm sure I'm speaking for the rest of the people on my team, of which there are 5 in our home office in Metuchen, New Jersey. These folks all have the same level of dedication, if not more somehow, given whatever circumstance befalls us. It's amazing the amount of caring and compassion, dedication, which has been ingrained over a period of, I think it's almost 30 years.
Yeah.
We've been doing this.
It's been a long time, Jay. It's been a long time.
So, so here we are, and, I don't want to come across as, as someone who is anything but humbly proud of the type of business and the type of way we go about that business as I am. It's really been an amazing journey in that regard. And each one of these each one of our team members has carved out a lifestyle that allows them community service, action, advocacy, and so forth, that dovetails very well and makes them very effective personally, so that people, first, trust us, second, understand that we're going to do the best that we possibly can do for them, and third, are encouraged to develop a collegial relationship with us, so that it spans decades and generations. And that's exactly what's happened.
Absolutely. Well, Jay, thank you for opening up on that. And you mentioned the word commerce earlier, and that kind of stuck in my brain as also community, because I think that's how communities have been built, especially here in the United States when, expanding to new territories or operating new businesses. Those communities are really what drives those conversations and allow for people to work with people they know and they like and that they ultimately trust, especially with their most crucial resources, which is their money and their time. Going to investment partners, and you touched on this, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about it. When it comes to your philosophy as a company as a whole over these past 30 years, I know you had kind of mentioned the ability to operate your personal values in your community as well. What are some of those other philosophies that stand out to you as being those core elements of what makes your business relevant and also unique to work with?
This is the best question because it can be summarized actually in 3 words, believe it or not. It's personalization, customization, and risk mitigation. If you can do all 3 of those things in the context of having a very close collegial relationship, then each time there's a client interaction, there's a level of comfort that allows for spirited dialogue. And you were saying before, and I'll add to what you were saying because it's so right on point. You have currencies, you have time and money. There's another currency, which is emotion. And that emotional currency is one that once you tap into it, then a bond forms. And that one of the reasons why our company is called Investment Partners is just because we want to be your partner in investing. And so that takes on a form that to us is multi-generational. It spans at least decades. Many of our client relationships have been around for as long as I have, if not longer.
Yeah.
So we've had the same families and we've been all things to some people for a very long time. And and the boundaries are very few when it comes to, the types of things we'll do and how we'll do them. But it always has the emotional backdrop, the feeling backdrop behind each one of the decisions. So we get to know you, and that once we do, we treat you as if you were ourselves. And if that's the case, then you're in very good hands. And so once we've been able to do that, which has been pretty much the entire time I've been involved, and my brother's been involved. He's been an astoundingly integral part of all this, and has in many respects really built the business in large measure himself. I'll give him a lot of credit. But each one of the team members plays an inseparable role to the amount of success that we've achieved.
Absolutely. It takes a team, right? Especially when it involves, I like how you said that, the personalization, the customization. What was that third one?
Risk management.
Risk management. So when it comes to these 3 dichotomies, if you will, what are some of the key factors you consider when evaluating a person's investment opportunity versus the risk?
Okay, so we have a multi-step process. And, there's a lot of people out there that think performance equals trust. Not true.
Right.
Process equals trust. Also not by itself true. Portfolio management, not also equating to trust as far as the business
if you bet on black, that doesn't mean black is always going to treat you right at the casino.
Well, right. You're gonna get that. What is it? 47% of the time or something like that. My math isn't great right now, but okay. So when you're, and I won't bore you with the process here because you're going to lose an audience when I start
I'm interested to see. I'm interested to see how
how
your team's approach.
It's very different than most smaller advisors. So I should say, by way of background, Investment Partners manages roughly $285 to $300 million, depending on the day, of assets under supervision directly, with discretion over most of it. And it's a fee-only service. We don't get paid unless you do well. I mean, we get paid, but you don't get paid as much as we would if you don't do as well, because it's completely based as percentage of assets under supervision. That's one. We have minimal, if any, conflicts of interest. You can read our Form ADV on our website, and we've stripped those out, and we do business, therefore, in ways that are, I can't say wholly dissimilar to most advisors, but, we have a very white sheet approach to what we do and how we do it.
Yeah.
With respect to process, that translates into quality at a price And we will always skew on the side of quality if we can, and that the process is weighted toward the analysis of data so that quality rises to the top. So in our stock selection, fund selection, et cetera, we're looking for income as total return, because we have a lot of people that rely upon income as part of their investment returns because they need money to live.
Right.
And then we also are looking at quality at a price. So once we are able to determine that, we have sophisticated algorithm programs that we get from the larger houses, because we are now of size to be treated as one client of whether it be BlackRock, Goldman, JP Morgan, PIMCO, Eaton Vance, whoever. We have access to those products and some structured ones that, a lot of people without those types of relationships may not be able to get on a personal level. So, we're very proud of that. We're very proud of the relationships that we've built. We have, from time to time, seminars that we promote through use of email, word of mouth, et cetera, that will have some dignitaries from the larger houses come in and speak to us on a topic, whether it be, we've had one on real estate, oil and gas, alternative investments, alternative energy, you name it. Okay, yeah. And we have a nice audience for that too. And we usually rent out the Canoe Country Club in New Jersey or Echo Lake or someplace like that, have people in person, and then transmit the rest of it out to Zoom, because we do have a national client base. So all of those things, and a lot of stuff I haven't even mentioned yet, has been, a really a very high source of pride in getting us to the level where, you could put us up against anybody at this point, and we can certainly show very, very well in a room of, competing RIAs.
Yeah. Jay, thank you for breaking that down. It sounds like you have a pretty busy day-to-day operation as well, and it requires a team of people to help with that. I'm curious on the portfolio management side of things, that key objective that you have of, really helping clients work through that relationship with how do I identify the time, how do I identify my money, and then how do I work through those emotions, because investing is very emotional, whether we like to admit it or not. We are tied to our money.
It can be, and that's why having an intermediary between you and your money can be very important, depending on your emotional makeup and framework.
Yeah. So when it comes to the navigation of those deliverables that you have for your clients, what do you find to be the most rewarding part for you, and what do you find to be the most challenging when it comes to?
Well, the most rewarding is obviously having people meet their goals and objectives and not have to worry about their money. That's you've done your job if you're in that regard. But one of the things I should also mention to you, Joe, that we've done here recently to round out that stable of services, that we provide life and health insurance, and we have a very deep relationship with a firm in Florida that allows for us to rate individuals that possibly are special circumstances. That's been very helpful to round out our client base with additional services. We're also in the property casualty business as well, and I now have a relationship with someone who I think can very much help people on the Eastern Shore with respect to rating risks that they may not be able to rate in the traditional sense. So we're going to work on that as well. We've also brought somebody in that is now a CPA that can do taxes and other tax planning. We also have planning software and a planning person on staff that does financial plans in the traditional sense as well. So taken in the aggregate, we now have a suite of services which most RIAs don't have directly in-house, and that the satisfaction, to answer your question, satisfaction involved with knowing that you can help somebody in your client world do most anything at this point that they want to get done. We can show them a lot of different things and see, what is palatable in the context of being able to assess whether whatever it is they are contemplating is riskier or less risky than what they're already doing. And so if you can show them that reward versus less risk, then the decision becomes far less complex and not emotionally taxing. A lot of what we do I can't say a lot of it, but some of what we do and much of what we do is kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah.
It's just the reason why I'm here, to be quite candid with you, is that, we're reasonably proud of what we put together. We need an audience.
Absolutely. And that process piece too, and I appreciate you answering that question. I did have a follow through with the second one earlier about the benefit too, because like the rewarding part, because I would imagine, especially with the market conditions, you don't always necessarily win more money, right? But when it comes to, or do you? Do you always win more money?
Okay, so it's not really about winning money in the truest sense.
So how
of the
do you
word.
define the success?
Okay,
then?
so here's the success.
Yeah.
Someone dies, their parents leave them some money. They don't know what to do with it.
Sure.
All of a sudden, they know what to do with it. They don't have to worry about it anymore. That's success.
So the process serves as
the process is the ballast by which all this decisions get made.
Yeah.
The second part of this is, and I don't know whether I should mention this, but I will anyway, and we can cut this later if it's not
sure.
if it's not appropriate to say. But I have some clients that I gained as a result of having them lose all their money in a Ponzi scheme. And we want to talk about satisfaction. I helped them get it back.
Yeah.
So they got restored pretty much dollar for dollar of everything they lost, which not a lot of people can ever say. They trusted not just me, but us, my entire team.
Your team, yeah.
To guide them through a process which was so incredibly unsettling. Joe, imagine if you had a degree of wealth and all of a sudden the next day it was gone.
For something I thought was legitimate, right?
Right. Yeah. All gone. And who would you trust in order to help you through that trying time? Well, they came to me. They came to my team. And that we've had these people as clients pretty much to a man for 7-8 years, how long this has taken place. I don't know. Something has to be conveyed in that conversation which is empathetic.
Right.
And if it's not, you don't want to involve yourself with people who have been through the emotional ringer. You just don't want to do that. Not if you're a caring, conscientious person.
Sure.
Right? So if you are and you think you can help, well, that is the best possible alternative. Right. And the degree of satisfaction of seeing these people happy, healthy, and wise now, whereas at one point they were at, in their greatest financial depths that they could possibly have ever been in, that is ultimately satisfying too. The other things that are satisfying are when people go through life circumstances that either they control or they don't control. Whether it is a tremendous victory, hey, I sold my company and my shift came in, or somebody died and they left me $1 million in a life insurance policy. So we help people manage through those transitions in life, because whether it's good or bad or indifferent, the people on my team have had transitions in life that they've had to go through firsthand. We're able to take that experience and the feelings associated with them and have that translate into advice, which is, in our opinion, worth paying for and certainly very valuable if, in fact, you come out the back end in a more stable state than you went in.
Jay, thank you for breaking that down too, especially considering I think, especially for my definition of investments, it could be somewhat limited, right? Because we just think put money in, maybe get some money out, but you and your company have really delved into the intricacies of life itself and how the money has moved.
You have to.
Throughout the transfer of wealth throughout these generations in order to best position yourself, not only in the marketplace, but also to figure out creative solutions for your clients.
It is all about creativity sometimes, and that's why having a wide slate of offerings, the wider the slate, the more creative you can be, and generally the less risk overall, generally. Now, that's not to say that if you live in a correlated environment where everything goes up or everything goes down simultaneously, there's not a whole lot of places to run and hide. I mean, we've gotten somewhat adept at that, but nobody's perfect. But at the same time, we never got ourselves into that position in the first place. So generally speaking, when things go down, we experience somewhat less on the way down. When things go up, we don't get as much of the upside as we want. But generally speaking, at least according to our programs that we get from BlackRock, JP Morgan, and others, we experience more upside generally, at least on a predicted basis, than we do downside. That's kind of another satisfying win also. Because if you can construct your world that way, then it really kind of doesn't matter what happens out there, especially if you're getting enough income in to where you're having a somewhat of a buffer on the way down, that the income protects you to at least some extent.
That's so fascinating. So would you consider your approach more so, and I apologize if this is too much of a generalized term, feel free to expand, but more of a conservative approach to the way you
I would call
invest?
it moderately conservative. We serve people who have the gamut of risk tolerance.
Sure.
So we have everybody from, I don't want to take any risk at all, to
because his client base is obviously
right, and it's usually advisor directed, meaning we have discretion.
Right.
Now, the extent to which people want to get involved with their own finances, generally we see the best returns are often the times where there's more collaboration than there is hands off. That's somewhat safe to say, and I think that most advisors would probably agree with that. Excuse me. So given that backdrop, what we're able to do, and this is only something that we've had at our disposal for the last few years, is that given the programs that we're available to now, we can compare experience within a risk tolerance category. Meaning if Mrs. Smith, Mrs. Jones, and Mrs. Edwards all have the same risk tolerance, but they're having 3 different experiences, we can figure out why that is and make it a little more uniform to the upside than we would have been able to years ago. And that's directly a function of the technological advances of some of the larger houses that they're making available to firms like ours.
Yeah. Jay, I'm super curious, and if you aren't comfortable, please let me know. But I'm curious if there is an example within your past 30 years that you look to as one of those defining moments for you as an investment partner that really solidified your role, not only as a partner to your clients, but also one to yourself too, because I can imagine, especially living at the caliber of life you have, at the timeline of your life, you have moments of definition of who you are as a person and as a worker. Don't have that luxury yet because time is, hopefully still in my future, and that's something I can work towards. Are there any certain milestones that you look back to as defining you as an investment partner?
You mean professionally?
Professionally, yeah. Any
Sure.
specific stories or examples for that time?
I don't know. Adding column A2 to B2, we could start there, right?
Yeah. What was it like going over the hump, Jay?
Yeah, that was a hump to be sure, because I have an intellectual incapacity for all things Excel. Actually, that's not true. But the reason why I'm joking about this is because as time has gone on, and that there have been more and more challenges from a data, analytical, technological standpoint than I can possibly believe. Like the first 20 some odd years of my career were quantitative.
Sure.
The last 7 to 10 years have been extra quantitative. Like it has been through the moon.
Sure.
And so the challenge of learning new software programs is twofold. First, the software program can do a lot, and it was usually reasonably well thought out. The problem is that how I would do it and how they programmed it can be 2 entirely different things.
It's almost like the programmers speak a different language than the investment banker. Yeah.
Right, and now I have to challenge myself a little bit as to think the way they think.
Yeah.
So that makes it doubly difficult. However, if you're asking about watershed moments, the watershed moments are learning each one of those tools, learning how to use them, putting them in your toolkit, utilizing them, then communicating to clients that you know how to utilize them, and that the language we should speak with respect to the accountability of our firm is rooted in some of the admittedly dispassionate numbers on a page, but they are a very good starting point, as it turns out, to define whether we're doing our jobs or not, or whether you could do it better on your own. And generally speaking, the conversation rarely goes to you could do it better on your own.
Yeah.
Rarely goes there.
Scorecard for success.
The scorecard for success is admirably weighted, in my opinion, toward we do it better than you could do it on your own.
Right.
And then by throwing in the other services, the insurance and the taxes and all the other stuff, and providing a full service suite, then you have real value added. Because A, I couldn't do this on my own. B, I wouldn't want to do this on my own. C, I don't have the emotional or other characteristics which make it so that I could do this on my own. And not only am I doing better in that regard normally, I also have these other things at my fingertips too if I need them.
Yeah.
So all of that has, in my opinion, led to a very, very nice business.
I'm sure this is intentional, but from an outside looking in, I still have to ask to clarify, you and your brother, especially too with the Investment Partners Group, it seems like over time have really developed this unique approach and using your industry knowledge to better the investments of an individual through the lens of how you invest personally. Was it more so of, hey, I'm getting older and this is how I want to use my money, so therefore it's better for clients? Or did it kind of come as a little bit more of this is what the clients need and we'll add to it?
It has never been about us.
Yeah.
It is always about the client.
Interesting.
Always.
Yeah.
And so, if you compared individual investment results to client investment results, there's, many times no resemblance, because what's good for me isn't necessarily good for Mrs. Jones.
And that's how personalized it is.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It is. Okay, so this might be a good time to mention this. And,
yeah, go ahead.
And again, we can cut this out if need be, but there are different ways of getting on Wall Street and getting rewarded. There's a box, and the box has 4 different outcomes. The first outcome is work hard, get rewarded. All about that. That's great. Not afraid of that. Second is work hard, don't get rewarded. That's what we need to stay away from. That's what you and the client both, regardless of who's investing on behalf of whom, that's where you got to stay away from. The other ones obviously are don't work hard, don't get rewarded. Okay, fine, go play golf, go fishing, whatever. And then not work hard, get rewarded, which is generally what happens in a passive sense. And so it's one of the reasons why there's so many dollars in passive income funds and passive stock funds, is because people think that they can just set it, forget it, and you get your market returns over time, and that should be better than what you have now, and hopefully keep up with inflation, and you can do it passively. Well, when things go down and they're highly correlated, you can't do it passively, so that doesn't work at all. But over a longer period of time, at least if past is prologue, people have been comfortable enough with doing something like that because it's not worth the extra effort.
That's so interesting. I've never heard it broken down that way, but I have, heard of the concept of, work smarter, not harder, I think is the oversimplified explanation of it. But
just something along those lines.
But in your professional opinion, the way in which you're want to encourage your clients is to, it's always good to have a pulse on your finances. Like setting and forgetting it is not the way to go, even if you're getting marginal.
It's not a strategy.
Hope is not a strategy. Yeah, that's not a process. That's a process for more failure than success, right? In the returns. Jay, this has been a phenomenal conversation. I really, really appreciate it. As we look ahead to the future of your company, is there anything folks should be on the lookout for? And then I have to ask, because this is personally interesting for me, but probably not for the general audience, how do you think AI is going to play its part in your industry as a whole? Okay,
that's why don't I take that question? Why don't we table the last question for after this response? So again, AI is going to be a very powerful tool, especially for people that want to set it and forget it.
Right.
They're going to ask ChatGPT, construct me a portfolio of ETFs that is going to accomplish the following.
Doing the version of Jay Abella.
And, right, and they're going to do that. Okay, and they're going to set it and forget it and be passive.
Yeah.
And fine, that's not who we serve. Who we serve are people who have more complicated lives than that, and I'm just bluntly going to say that.
Yeah.
They're movers, shakers, they're doers, they're achievers, etc. Okay, and when you do that and you have lots of moving parts and lots of complexities in your life, you need a firm that can provide full service suite services back to you along the lines of what we were talking about. It's not just investment management, but it's it's taxes and it's planning and it's insurance of all shapes and sizes, and it's risk mitigation, and it's intergenerational transfer of wealth, and it's dealing with probate, and it's dealing with
so much probate,
all kinds of different things. Okay, and so having that level of experience is where advice comes in. ChatGPT is not going to give you advice, okay?
Yeah. It's information, but
it's going to give you information, but it's not going to give you advice.
Right.
So the other part of that is, and this is a very important point, and I don't know whether I'm going to communicate this effectively to the outsider, but let me try.
You're good. I'll ask clarifying questions.
If you know how to use and interpret what ChatGPT says, you're worth your weight in gold, because all it is a tool. It is not a substitution. It'd be like, if you're going to dig a hole and the shovel was mechanical, it's going to dig a hole. What are you going to put in it?
Yeah.
Are you going to put girders in it? Who knows how to do that?
I can dig 100 holes. Cool.
That still has to happen. Otherwise, you're just going to have 100 holes in the ground. Okay? So somebody has to interpret whether what ChatGPT puts out, or its equivalent, is actually a workable solution for somebody, but they wouldn't know it until they take what that output was and throw it through a different AI algorithm.
Yeah.
So now you have to have somebody who's trained and skilled in being able to do both. So if you can't do both, and you can't do the interpretation of what the dispassionate AI comes out with, well, then you get something, but you don't know what you don't know. So what's helpful is that we have the secondary confirmation, the portfolio look over the shoulder, if you will, of figuring out whether something actually jives. Because you get what you pay for sometimes. You think you're just going to be able to get a portfolio that ChatGPT puts together? You might, and you might not. That's kind of an expensive lesson to learn. If might not is when it materializes, then you find out, oh, that I didn't know what it was talking about.
Yeah, better off just gambling it.
Yeah, that's not the way I would do it myself. But I'm in the business, and I'm full disclosure. I get paid as a result of assets under supervision. But at the same time, would I look at it that way? I would if I didn't ever think I was going to be well off. Okay, I would. If I were going to be of the type of person that is going to be well off, well heeled, be in the game of having to transfer wealth intergenerationally, shelter tax, etc., there's not a substitution for that yet, and I don't think there will be, at least for people who are serious about those pursuits.
Yeah.
They'll use them as confirmatory diligence, but they won't use them primarily. My feeling.
Yeah. Jay, thanks for diving into that, and I appreciate you sharing that as well, because with all of the buzz and conversation around AI, I think a lot of people see it as a substitution versus, like as you said, a tool to further confirm or advance the conversation as well. And I don't know, people are still people, and I think as long as we continue to innovate, I think that's that's the best resources, working with people, right?
I agree. Otherwise, we don't need relationships anymore. Yeah. I can't envision a world where that's true.
No, not at all. Jay, this has been a great conversation. We really appreciate your time.
Oh, anytime.
I've enjoyed it. Well, I'm glad to hear that. And I appreciate your patience with me navigating this landscape, because this is more than just one conversation of knowledge and information. And, for folks that are looking to connect with you and your team and learn more about you, love to roll out the red carpet. This camera here. Any final words or messages you want to leave the audience, and where they can go to find you? The floor is all yours.
Well, you can always find us at investmentpartners.com. That's first. You can drop us an email. My email is jabella@investmentpartners.com. It's just the letter J, ABELLA @investmentpartners.com. As far as anything else is concerned, we're always here. So call, write. We'll come to you in person. We'll meet, just like I've come to the palatial environs that you have here, Joe. So, we tend to travel, and we'll make it so that we show a degree of seriousness with respect to contact. Whenever it comes forth, and that we will sit and we will listen, and go from there. As far as whatever is going on in your life, maybe we can work together and help you either solve problems or achieve goals.
Lovely. Jay, thanks again for the conversation. We truly appreciate it.
Pleasure's all mine, and thank you, Joe and Michael, for putting this together.